No one hates Anthony Joshua. No one's hating upon Anthony Joshua. Everyone admires him. Does anybody really here, because I don't, actually think Anthony's going to win the world title again?
He's gone a bit gun-shy when it does get into a firefight.
I know that the president of his fan club is here in Spencer.
I thought I won quite convincingly, and obviously the judges thought different.
But we're not seeing an acceleration of Josh's career. We're seeing performances that are beginning to question the veracity of how far he can go.
How do you market selling Joshua Buatsi versus Benavidez off the back of the performance against Zach Parker?
That's Queensberry's job.
Great analogy, it's snakes and ladders, but unfortunately at the very top, the ladders are a lot steeper.
Right.
And if you lose at that level, it's a long way down.
But it seemed to be so casual. Why do you think Joe Parker didn't put a rematch clause in there?
It's a great question. That is a great question.
He had everything to lose in this fight, didn't he?
It is, man.
And bugger all to gain, did he? Welcome to episode 145 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver and Paul Smith. Joining us today is, I suspect, a very disappointed British light heavyweight, Zach Parker. Nice to see you, Zach. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. We'll get into talking about your circumstance with the fight on the weekend at Josh Buatsi. But let's start with a topic brought onto our radar last week by an announcement from Eddie Hearn, which is the imminent return of Anthony Joshua. There seems to be so many mixed messages about this situation. Have you got any ideas, Spence, about who Anthony may be fighting?
No ideas on who he will be fighting, but I do believe that he will be fighting this year. There was talk of him fighting November the 15th, which I think would be too soon on the undercard of Eubank Ben. Also, the show that they've got...
Undercard? On
the undercard. So, yeah, we'll get into that. There's also talk of him fighting on December the 13th. That's on the show that Matchroom have out in the States. On the likely one, where I think he will fight, is December the 27th, undercard of Inoue
December the 27th?
December the 27th on the undercard of Inoue versus David and Picasso. That's where I think it will land. And it's on the undercard, yeah. I think it's the first time since he turned pro.
I mean, where are you, Zach, on the Anthony Joshua conversation? I have a great admiration for Anthony Joshua, but I've suggested that this time has been and gone now. He's won his titles, he's banked his money, and perhaps he should sail off into the sunset. When you think of Anthony Joshua as a current boxer, what do you think about when you think about him coming back and returning to the ring?
Yeah, it's obviously been the face of British boxing for a long time now. But as for him to go on to win another world title, he's already boxed USYK twice.
Yep.
And he's lost to him twice. But it obviously is a massive pull in Joshua. So it'd be good to see him back in the ring.
You know, Alexander Usyk, we don't know what's happening with him. Obviously, it won't be Anthony Joshua, but them titles fragment. Do you think that Joshua has the ability to win a world title again?
I think if he's coming back into boxing, I don't think he'll be just wanting to box on like little titles. Now I think he's just going to want to go on to win the massive titles. Obviously,
depends who's matched against him, really. Yeah, it depends. I mean, there's no indication that he can come back and beat Alexander Usyk, because that dance has been danced, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they've got to be careful about who they match him with, and the right opportunity has to come up for him to pick up one of them world titles. Because if you look at some of the younger fighters coming through, you know, you mentioned Moses Atauma, you look at that and you go, like, that wouldn't be the right fight for someone like Anthony Joshua, who's in the twilight of his career. But it depends. He's WBC ranked number 3. I know you've got Agit Kabayel, who's the interim champion. Sure. So that would be, again, a tough fight. But he's well ranked in all the governing bodies. So we just have to see where the landscape lies.
I mean, what are you hearing? I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of things. I'm hearing he's out in camp with Alexander Usyk.
I'm hearing the same thing.
Well, what's that about?
He's trying to reinvent himself in many ways. And Anthony Joshua's always done that, by the way. He's always travelled around working with different people. He likes to, you know, we saw him
reinvent himself again. How many what's he, Doctor Who?
Yeah, but that's what he's trying to do, though, Simon. I think he's at that stage of his career where he's trying to rediscover a little bit of that confidence. He's gone to Alexander Usyk, where we're hearing reports he's out there, training with Usyk and the team, trying to pick up something, trying to rediscover something.
That's very strange, Paul, isn't it?
It is, but it's not unheard of. I've heard of a lot of fighters doing that. You see fighters, obviously, it's the old Rocky movies years ago, but you see a fighter losing to someone, all of a sudden they go in the camp and they start training and do a little bits together and become friends or whatever else. I think it'll do Joshua no harm travelling, but as you say, he's a little bit long in the tooth and he's a bit on the back nine rather than the front nine, where that experience would really come into play. But I'm just looking at his record here. He obviously, after the Usyk fight, he'd come back and he had 3 fights and then the Ngannou demolition job.
Well, yeah, Jermaine Franklin, he had Robert Helene, he had Otto Wally, and he smashed Ngannou, which everyone went hallelujah for, right?
Yeah, but he's obviously not in like the BoxRec rankings to see where he is. But the Dubois fight is a fight where, what you've just said then, Spencer, like, match him right. I felt he was match right with Dubois. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I was wrong on that and I was proved wrong, but I felt like Joshua would have and should have came through that, but he obviously didn't. So therefore, it's back to the drawing board, and where do you go from there? What do you do from there? Does he keep the same team around him? Does he go and find someone new and try and adapt and add to his repertoire already? And this move at USYK, I don't know what it'll be, but if he's fighting before Christmas, then he needs to get in shape quick, because there's only 8 weeks to go, let's say.
Well, my understanding, he's in camp, he's in shape, and just looking to getting out and get back to winning ways is my understanding. That's why they're talking about 8-rounders.
Yeah.
He wants to sort of go under the radar a little bit, and it's difficult for someone like Anthony Joshua because he's such
Very
a
much so.
commercial commodity.
He's always been in shape all the time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He always will be in shape. He's never, ever not been...
But it's not about his
dedicated.
physical shape, is it? No one's ever questioned his physical state. Zach, when I was talking about Anthony Joshua, and I know that the president of his fan club is here in Spencer, but I talked about the PTSD issue post various fights, whether it be the Alexander Usyk or the Daniel Dubois situation. But prior to Daniel Dubois, I always maintained that I felt that despite the performance against Jermaine Franklin, despite the performance against Robert Helenius, which had been blasted out by Deontay Wilder, and we've seen what Deontay Wilder is now with respect to him, and despite the performance against Otto Wallen, I always felt that there was a likelihood if he got stuck one on him by a live one, he was going to have a challenge with that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree with me?
Yeah, you've seen it in a few fights. Obviously, the Andy Ruiz fight, that's one of the first times when
That's where the damage was done, wasn't it?
And then since then, he's gone a bit gun shy when it does get into a fight. You've seen the Daniel Dubois fight. Obviously, Daniel Dubois is a massive hitter in the heavyweight division, and if he does fight someone like that, it can always come unstuck. There's always that.
But
chance.
ironically, he wasn't gun shy against Daniel Dubois, was he? Because he got knocked out trying to knock Daniel Dubois out.
Yeah.
I think the biggest fight out of it would be him and Fury, really. I think that's the one what everyone wants to see if there was going to go for the biggest money fight.
And if he is going to have that Fury fight, it's a lot better for him to go into it with a win on his record, with another few rounds, just to blow a bit of the cobwebs off to get back in, so you're not coming in off.
I agree, and I think that I think the roadmap for Anthony Joshua, if you're looking at, I think at his stage of his career, he's looking at fight by fight, and coming through each fight, because a loss would spell the end of the career. But you're looking at possibly December. Then he was talking about getting out late February, early March, and then the big showdown, obviously, if Fury comes back in the summertime.
It's been gone a long time now, isn't he? I mean, it's been 13 months.
Yeah.
It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think, and I don't think it's unfair to say, a lot of Anthony's challenges are in his mind, in terms of overcoming the thought processes.
I think they're all in his mind.
Well, yeah. Okay, then we'll go for the full hog and say they're all in his mind. Because I remember Shane McGuigan talking about wrapping up a fighter before, and Anthony Joshua walking in before his fight, going, "How do you think I should fight that fight?" And he's about to fight for a world title or fighting at a level, and you're thinking, how can
He's always been that way, by the way.
two-time world champion want to have that question?
That's not just happened. He's always been that way. Even as an amateur, he was that way. He's one of those guys that's like a sponge, and he's always looking. It doesn't make sense in many ways. Not for a fighter when you're going in, especially like when you're on a ring walk and you're asking people, what do you think I should do? It's like, it seems crazy. I think he's always had the physicalities for sure, but for me, it's the psychological side with Joshua, and that's what he's maybe trying to rediscover going over to Alexander Usyk, if that's where he's at. I suppose the question for you guys is, do you think that he has the capability of picking up a world title again?
To be a three-time world title.
To answer your point on what you just said, I think it's refreshing. He never, ever thinks he's the complete article, because he's not. No one is really, and he always is willing to learn. Can he win another world title? It all depends on the belts. The belts have to be fragmented. He's not going to be Usyk again. And I don't know. It doesn't matter what trainer. I'm not putting him down saying it doesn't matter what trainer he goes to, whether he works with Usyk or whatever. I just can't see him beating Usyk in that fight. That's fine. But if the belts are fragmented, there's going to be some.
Could you see him beating Ajay Cabello?
Again, not after his last performance against Dubois, no, but there's other champions out there, though. There's other contenders out there that could fight for a vacant belt that he could certainly manoeuvre his way into to become.
If he was landing on your doorstep, coming to you, for you to guide him and direct him and take him into a different direction, what would you be doing with Anthony Joshua? Would you be saying, look, son, you've had a great career, you've made a fortune of money, you don't need to be doing this? Or would you be saying something different?
I'd have to see what he had left mentally in the gym. You'd have to get a lot of tough sparring. You'd have to see at what his desire level it really is, and whether there was signs of aging in that last fight against Dubois. For me, in the last fight against Dubois, I watched him trying to pull it trigger and it just wasn't there. I saw him fighting with a little bit of ego, waiting just a little bit too long and getting beaten to the punch by the younger hungry fighter who was fighting a bit on nerves at the time. And I felt it was a bit of a recipe for disaster for him, but I did feel like he could have got through that and won that fight. Tactically, I think the team got it wrong. I've said that. I'm not putting them down or having a go at them saying that. I just think tactically they got it wrong on the night. If he had another go at that fight, he probably, with the right changes, I think he's got the beating of him. but it just depends what.
Well, I think they feel that in the camp, don't they, after watching what Alexander Usyk did to Daniel Dubois, they're looking at and thinking, because they got a lot closer to Alexander Usyk than Daniel was gotten against him. And the second fight, Joshua was certainly in that fight, wasn't he, against What would you do with him in the gym, Paul?
He's got, listen, there's no secret about him. He works his arse off. He is a grafter. He does work, but it's got to be back to the basics. Just get you fighting again. You know, a bit less on maybe the strength and conditioning, a bit more on the punching, the fighting, the sparring. The actual, you know, again, pads are overrated. Get on out of your bag, get you working, get in the gym, get you sparring, get the right type of sparring, competitive sparring, younger, hungry fighters. See what he's actually got left in there and desire-wise, because he's got an unbelievable life. He's made a lot of money from boxing.
Isn't there an element of an old dog and new trick?
No, but
I'm saying back to basics. Old dog, get back to what you know best. Get back to what helped you win all them medals and
the physicalities and that are all there with Anthony Joshua. It's all mental. Like, it's about, you get him in the gym, you know that he works like a dog in the gym. He's that guy. The desire is still there because he does want to become a three-time world champion. I know that for a fact. It's not about the desire or the physicalities. It's all about here. It's the mental side of things. And that's all about believing in your trainer, believing in yourself, the team around you. And I think that's what he's trying to discover right now at this stage, because he knows it's the last roll of the dice.
For me, though, Spence, you don't need this big team. I'm constantly seeing this on telly. I know, totally. I think you need your boxing trainer, you need a good strength and conditioning coach, and you need a few people around you who are close to you, who are friends or family, who are really, really close to you, who are there to help you, and who will tell you what you need, not what you want. And if you have that core group of people, a core small team, then you're going all the way. But realistically, you're in that boxing gym, it's you and your boxing coach. You're in a strength gym, it's you and your strength coach, or your running coach, or whoever's timing you on the runs or swimming or whatever it is you're doing. And you've got a nutritionist there who helps you out. But constantly there's 50 people around them, and I don't know whether they're all right or wrong for them.
What would you do with it, Zach? Well, like, if you was in that Joshua's position right now, you know that it is the last roll of the dice. You're taking it fight by fight. What's the roadmap?
Depends what he wants. If he wants to win the world title, I don't see that in the future. If he wants just massive fights, obviously like the Shuri fight, then I could see him doing it. But if he keeps changing trainers all the time, you're obviously trying to teach an old dog new tricks, like you said. But I don't know. It's down to him. You don't know what's in his mind, do you? When
we put aside the qualification, we know that Anthony Joshua, if he's going to fight for a world title, he's got to fight someone significant. He's not going to fight another Charles Martin, right? Yeah, that opportunity is gone. Yeah. Right. So when we think about it, and we can look at the landscape, whether it's Ajit Kabiel, or whether it's Joe Parker re-engineered, or whether it's whoever we can think of inside the top 5 world heavyweights. Do we honestly, because I don't think he does win another world title, when we get to the bottom line without wanting to denigrate anything he's done, no one hates Anthony Joshua, no one's hating upon Anthony Joshua, everyone admires him. But when we're talking in a conversation about a three-time world champion, does anybody really here, because I don't, and I'll nail my colours to the mast, actually think Anthony's going to win the world title again? A world title again?
Listen, I think it all depends on where these world titles land once they fragment. If you talk about Alexander Usyk, of course, no, I don't. And if you talk about the young... No, but if you
I've just done all that, Spence.
If you talk about the young...
He's going to fight a serious fight.
Who he doesn't beat. I'm saying if you talk about the young guys, I don't know if he'd beat Ajit Kabiel right now. Moses Talma, you wouldn't go near. And these guys are world ranked and we wait for the opportunity. Yeah. I just see it that a title may manifest itself because that's the nature of the beast. That is the business side of things. If if the Tyson Fury fight happens in the summer, they'll strap a world title around that. For one of those titles will fragment and they will.
Well, who would he fight and beat?
Let's look at this factually though. Yeah. There's Fabio Wardley has 2 of the interim belts, so if they are fragmented, he's usually unified world champion.
Absolutely.
That's the fight. Yeah. Now, can Anthony Joshua beat Fabio Wardley? I think he can. Yeah. And that's what I do think he can. Yeah. I'm not saying he will, but I do think he can. If everything's right, I do think he certainly can.
That's interesting. Because I was curious, I was going to put Fabio Wardley into the equation because the big thing about Fabio, and we'll talk about Fabio Wardley in a bit later on.
Has to be Wardley, don't it, because he has the belts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Belts. And the problem you've got then as well, obviously Wardley being in the same camp.
Exactly.
You know, effectively, because Ben Davison has Wardley, so you go, one of them has to leave the gym. Is that Anthony Joshua's idea? He's over there training in Spain at the moment with Usyk. Is that the long-term goal? Is he looking at... I don't know when the titles like the WBA, WBO, I don't know when they fragment. I think the WBO is next in line. WBC is last.
Oh, it's Wardley next.
So, there will be opportunity for sure.
Interesting. We'll wait and see. Let's talk about you first and how you're feeling physically and mentally after the fight.
Yeah, I feel absolutely fine. It weren't like a physically draining fight, to be fair. Obviously, I thought I won quite convincingly, and most people online think it, and people who was at ringside think it as well. Obviously, the judges thought different, and now we're obviously trying to talk about it to everyone out there. And yeah, I think even like you lot said that they thought I won, and obviously I didn't get the roll of the dice on the night.
Well, this is the way that the fight panned out. That Buatsi was too flat-footed. He was labouring with the jab. He was throwing that double jab and falling in, and you were nicking the shots on the outside. You know, you sort of beating him to the shots on the outside, and when he was getting inside, you was doing what you had to do, and that was tying him up, because physically you was never going to beat him on the inside, because he's physically very strong and very good. That's his game on the inside. But I thought you controlled it from the outside and was doing enough in the rounds to win it. You know, there's a lot of controversy about the falling down. So put that to bed. Like, you know, like a lot of people are saying, well, Buatsi said it himself, actually. He went down 6 times. How can you win a fight if you go down 6 times? If the referee doesn't penalise you for going down, then there's no conversation there. It's down to the referee to penalise you. But what was the reason for going down so much?
When he's leaning on me, like 14, 15 stone, and me just keep picking up, I'm going to waste my energy, keep picking up. So I might as well just go down, get up after. We're already broken up. It's like the old tricks of boxing.
Put me in a bad situation here, because Zach sitting next to me, didn't think he was going to be here. But my problem was with the referee on the night. It was 8 times in 7 rounds, and I've got it all marked down from when I watched it. There has to be a point in that fight where the ref needed to say, if you do it again, it's basically taking a knee. And he had to have it, and then you wouldn't have done it. And it's tactics. It happens.
Same thing. You could say same thing with him when he was hitting.
Buatsi, by the way, Buatsi's a rough fighter. Buatsi, I like him. I like watching him fight, because he's sort of no nonsense. Like when you went to touch glove, he didn't want to touch glove. He's a gentleman outside the ring. In there, he's a spiteful man. That's how you have to be when you fight. But he has his tactics. You have your tactics. The both he was coming in low with his shoulder a lot. You were using your arms a lot. It was that type of fight. I'm fine with that all day, as long as it's not infringing too much on the rules. But I feel the referee needed to be a little bit stronger on the day. And we're talking about points that we shouldn't really be talking about. We should have been just talking about a decent fight.
Before we get into a little bit more with Zach, let's listen to what Josh Buatsi said after the fight.
Are you frustrated with that tonight? It seemed like a really difficult fight you had to put there.
Gareth, of course, there's a type of result that you want. There's a type of performance that you want, But the style he had didn't allow it. But I said to my team, as soon as I got to the corner, Gareth, I said I won the fight anyway. But of course, there's a way you want to win. I said, Gareth, you can't be on the floor about 6-7 times and claim you won the 10th rounder.
Virgil's saying he wants you in against Anthony Yard, Benavidez, Beterbiev, because those are the fights that'll bring out the best in you.
Yeah, it is. It is, you know, they wouldn't come and keep falling on the ground. You know, we'll fight and we'll have a good fight.
I like Josh a lot, but I'm not sure I agree with a lot of what he just said there. What did you think of Buatsi's performance, Paul? I mean, obviously we saw him. We all admired the fight with your brother Callum earlier on in the year, and we all felt that that it was a fight of the year contender, and that Josh Buatsi came out of that fight with a lot of credit. But beat he was, and I was expecting a performance that was of a higher level than the performance I saw from Buatsi against Zach Parker. That, to some extent, that's not because Zach didn't allow it. It wasn't Zach's job to allow him to perform. But what did you make of Buatsi's performance? Were you surprised by it?
A little. I did think the fight with Callum may have took a little bit out of him, but I felt like I saw him at the weigh-in. He didn't look the best at the weigh-in, to put it
in what
mildly.
way?
He looked like he worked really hard to make the weight.
Right.
You were looking in his eyes, so you've seen a lot more than me.
Yeah.
I think he looked like he'd worked really hard to make the weight, and I think as a result, maybe of that, he looked quite flat on the night. And tactically also, I felt like he got a bit wrong. He kept lunging in and leaning in with this jab, and it just wasn't there. Zach was nullifying it, and that's probably credit to Zach as well. But a lot of the tactics didn't work. His jab's very good. He's got probably his best shot, his jab. It's a really good jab, and it's one of the only stats where he outlanded Zach on the night was with the jab. But the power shots and everything else, all the stats were with Zach on the night. But I just felt tactically and physically, he got it wrong. He worked a bit too hard in phases where he didn't need to. In other places, he needed a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more aggression from him when he was fighting. Open up a little bit more, let a bit more go. But he was trying to just constantly outbox Zach, and it wasn't working.
But it felt very sedate, didn't it? He felt very one-paced, and I've seen him in fights before where he's looked very one-paced. I thought his corner was one-paced to some extent in terms of their urgency.
There was no purpose around his work at all. He was coming forward. He was taking too much time. There was no sense of urgency there. And Virgil Hunter, I'm not sure that relationship works, because since he teamed up with Virgil Hunter, and that's not taking nothing away from the guy, the trainer himself, but I just don't think that that relationship works, because Joshua Buatsi actually looked like he's gone backwards.
Well, he was in the corner with him.
Up.
He was in the corner with him for Willie Hutchinson, wasn't he? And he was in the corner with him for Dan Aziz. So it has worked. It was about the style of fight. He didn't like the style that Zach was bringing to bear. Talking about Zach, what did you take away about Zach? I mean, I remember I've been listening to Frank Warren for a long time, telling me that he wanted Zach Parker in against Josh Buatsi because he thought he could beat him. And he's been saying it for a long time. And I remember when I was talking to Ben Shalom and helping make the fight with Willie Hutchinson, there was always Frank in the background going, well, we'll put Zach Parker in there because we think he can beat him. Right? What did you make of Zach's performance?
Zach's performance, tactically, they got it spot on. Because, there's no secret. You can't stand there with Joshua Buatsi. Physically, he's going to be too strong. That's his game. And Zach done what he had to do to win the fight. It was never going to be pretty to watch. It's like, you don't even want to go back and have to watch it again. I did watch it again. I watched it today, to go over it again. And you look at it and you go, tactically, he got it right. Yeah. He done what he had to do to win the fight, and he should have won the fight. And I think off the back of that performance, you go, where does Joshua Buatsi go? You're talking about him boxing the winner of Anthony Yarde versus Benavidez off the back of that performance and losing to Callum Smith. You go, I think a rematch with Zach Parker and, try and right the wrongs of that contest, because there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. Ben Whittaker done it against Liam Campbell.
Yeah, he did.
He went back in.
He did.
But I'm just saying...
But Ben Whittaker wasn't having a world title shot next down the line, was he?
Okay, well, let's say that Benavidez beats Anthony Yarde.
Yeah.
How do you market selling Joshua Buatsi versus Benavidez off the back of the performance against Zach Parker?
Well, I don't know. That's Queensberry's job.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's not an easy job. So what I'm saying is, whilst they're there,
how boxing works. They'll forget the performance. Yeah. It's just they got to win, and that's how. That's unfortunately for Zach. That's how it is.
But where do you think? I mean, do we think? And I'm going to ask the question about him, then ask him himself. Yeah. Do you think, as a result of that fight, that Zach's stock has risen?
Yeah.
Well, stylistically, it won't have done in terms of the eyes of the broadcasters, because they won't like that fight, will they? They won't think it's the most entertaining fight to have watched. But in terms of his opportunity, because he's feeling very sore about the opportunity being taken away from him. Obviously he's mentioned it on a number of occasions, and he'll probably mention it again about the fact he's taken money out of his family's mouth, which it has. Because there's a level of money that he'll be getting for the next fight against the level of money he'll be getting for a different opportunity. But do you think it's given him an opportunity now in the light heavies to be in a situation where the next fight doesn't have to be this massive snakes and ladders thing?
Same thing happened to me, and I got the rematch, and I lost the rematch fair and square.
But Arthur Abraham?
Yeah, but then I got a phone call of fans they were because of those performances. So your stock has risen, absolutely, and there will be opportunities from this. And fingers crossed there are opportunities, because the rematch, should he have won, would have been for a hell of a lot more money. Yeah. He would have maybe fought against the winner out of Benavidez and Yarde instead of Buatsi being mentioned in that phrase. I do think a rematch is a good fight, and I do think a rematch would settle the score. But the stock's definitely risen because he's shown that he's belonged in the ring with someone like Buatsi, who I feel is at a very high level, and a lot of the fans actually do.
I mean, there isn't commercial. There's not going to be a commercial return on this rematch, is there? As much as it might be unjust and unfair. And boxers, to me, I said it earlier on in another show, if one sport needs more transparency about officials' decisions, it's bloody boxing, because it's you guys with the nobility and putting yourself at risk. Footballers and other sports get all the transparency to some extent, and you guys are not getting it, and I think it's wrong.
I sort of agree with Paul in many ways that Zach's stock has risen. And I think that if you look at it and you go, all right, look, say Buatsi does now want to kick on. Let's say Anthony Yarde wins a fight, and that's a fight we always wanted to see. You go, on the undercard there, on the same show there, we had Lyndon Arthur.
I was going to say, why doesn't he fight Lyndon Arthur for the European title?
The European title. Yeah. That's where I place it. I go,
that's what I was about to say.
That's a great fight. Lyndon Arthur, he put in a great performance, by the way, as well. Picked himself off the deck.
He did.
And you thought, he had to grit it out there, and at 34 years of age, you go, I respected that. And I go, that's a great fight. Both guys performed on a night. Zach Parker, Lyndon Arthur, European title, why not?
Well, let's hear. I mean, we're talking about you.
Yeah.
So
I'd take that fight by fans, obviously. Right. Obviously, I'd like the rematch more, but obviously with the fight, obviously it weren't the best of obviously styles, but that's what I had to do to win the fight. And like in boxing, the mentality is the winner stays on, and obviously I had to do whatever I had to do to win. And but yeah, with the Lyndon Arthur fight, I'll take up both hands. If that's what's next for me, that's what's next for me. Yeah, if that's what's next for me, that's what's next for me.
So then you get your just rewards off the back of...
Everyone knows I will fight anyone out there. I had the Willie Hutchinson fight, and they pulled out a few days before. And then obviously they said Buatsi. I said definitely. Yeah. And then I was obviously arguing about who's in the home corner for this fight. And in the end, I said, just give it him, because I know I can beat him. Yeah. So.
Where does Josh go from here? I mean, ultimately, the performance that we expected from Josh in this fight, I mean, I'll be honest, Zach, I tipped Josh to beat you, with no disrespect intended.
Yeah.
his performance was nowhere near what was needed from him, and that a lot to do with the man sitting opposite us. But does he really land in a world of fighting the winner of Yard versus Benavidez, and what does that do for him in real terms? Is that a fight? Because, I mean, your brother must have something to fucking say about that.
But you know, you know what though?
By the way,
I think that if Anthony Yard beats Benavidez, then obviously that fight has history. So Buatsi Yard would sell, you know. But that's a big if, like, because Benavidez will start an overwhelming favourite. But Buatsi's put himself in a position now where it's not just about winning at that stage. It was about showcasing something. And like you say, I think everyone tipped Buatsi to beat Zach. And the way that the fight materialised, you just go, you needed to be a little bit better than that to warrant a fight going into that. So I don't know where he's put himself in a difficult space, Joshua Buatsi, but he's just signed with Queensbury, so Frank might have ideas for him.
For me, Spence, would you put Buatsi in with the winner next after the performance that he's just put on? Would you think he needed one or two, or maybe one more fight or a rematch?
Like I say, if Anthony Yard won, then you'd go, well, that's the fight to make.
You'd have to take, but if it's Benavidez, I mean, if it's Benavidez, would you put him in next?
Personally, no. Of course I wouldn't. No. But then also, on the flip side, where do you go with him? Because he's at that stage of his career where you have to let him go sometimes. He had the fight with your brother. That was a tough fight that he come out with a loss. He's had the Zach Parker fight. It's a fight that we thought he lost and he got the decision. The boxing gods were with him. So you go, he's at that stage where you go, if the Benavidez fight comes up, the financial rewards from that, you have to take the fight.
But the interesting direction of travel for Josh is that we're seeing, I don't want to say managed decline, but we're not seeing an acceleration of Josh's career. We're seeing performances that are beginning to question the veracity of how far he can go in terms of the once upon a time, before the Callum Smith fight, before your fight with your brother, there was this thought process amongst us all that he was heading in one direction. And that's now been derailed, because I don't see Josh in the last two performances in any way, shape or form, because I think Benavidez will beat Anthony Yard, with due respect to Anthony. I don't see David Benavidez being something that Josh Buatsi is going to be able to overcome. Do you?
No, I don't. Not on the last couple of performances. Like you say, I think there was a time when we were all in agreement that Joshua Buatsi was the best prospect globally, not just in this country. I think that you know when he turned over and the way he was progressing, he was moving, but he seems to have stalled a little bit now. And if anything, a slight decline.
But it's levels,
you know. And off the back of the Callum Smith defeat, you looked at it and you go, right, this might mould him. That might have been the kick up the backside that he needed. He might come back better and stronger.
We just said that about Zach. After the Callum Smith loss, his stock risen. Massively. His stock rose massively.
And the same applies for Zach, which is why it's not all rain clouds for you. And I do like the fight with Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah,
I do
that's
like
a great
that
fight.
I think that would be a great fight.
A logical fight.
Talking about, so we hope that can be a situation that maybe Queensbury can manifest itself and people can get paid, because that will be a fight that people will be interested in. Talking about stars of the future, I just want to touch upon Pat Brown. I mean, Pat came in the studio a year ago, very confident lad, very eloquent, very articulate lad, very nice lad, but very strong in his beliefs about what he was going to do. You know, Foghorn Leghorn, his manager, Sam Jones, is very confident about him as well. But that performance on the weekend, I know the fella was on the other side of the best performances of his... But not many people have done to that fighter what Pat Brown did to him in terms of demolished him in 2 rounds. Demolished him.
And that, you know, you have to go out there and you have to make those statements. Whether the fighter's on the decline or not, you know, you've got to go out there and do the job.
A 4-0 young fighter going in against an experienced guy like this.
That's what I'm saying. I think that Pat Brown is like, look, he has the personality for sure. He's got the character. He can fight inside the ring as well. He's the package. So you can create a star out of that guy. And I think that Eddie will do a great job with him. Just it's all about the development, moving him in the right place at the right time. But potentially, he could go on. He could become that pay-per-view.
Well, see, I think so too. I think that if you're going to make a lot of noise about Moses Atoma, you need to make a lot of noise about this. The only thing about this is the cruiserweight division. We know that the cruiserweight division, not with due respect to the fact it's a boxing division, but it doesn't attract the attention, does it?
But I've literally got it here in front of me. He's now sitting at number 6, one place above Tommy Fury. He's like, it's a very weak division. You can see him blasting through it, getting all the way up to the top. At the top is Chris Billum-Smith. Vidal Riley, obviously British champion.
But what happens with these cruiserweights, what I'm saying is the heavyweight generation that are now coming through are smaller heavyweights. Well, we had the bigger heavyweights. Now it's the cruiserweights that are now moving up to heavyweight. And you've got Jai Opetaia, who's going to probably go there as well. You look at Pat Brown, you go, once he's done his thing at cruiserweight, because I expect him to do that, and he will reach that world level, and he picks up the title, then obviously the natural progression would be to move up into the heavyweight.
I really
the
rate
future's
him.
bright for sure.
So do I.
I really rate him. I think I love his style as well.
Yeah.
He's a no-nonsense style, and I like watching him. He's going to be a big fan favourite.
Let's move on to the fight that happened a week ago. You would have covered it last week on the show when I was away, but I want to revisit it because obviously some of us haven't discussed it, and I wanted to talk to Zach about it. I mean, the dust settled a little bit on the Fabio Wardley Joseph Parker fight. I mean, I thought it was one hell of a fight, and we'll talk about that in a second. And what did you think of it, Zach?
I've not actually watched it. Obviously,
have you not?
No, I've seen the highlights. I've been preparing for my fight, but I've seen the highlights. Obviously, it was a controversial stoppage, weren't it? And because he took a lot of shots on that last bit, but when you're in like the last few rounds, I feel like you could just give him a little bit more time maybe, but you just need to fire back with a couple maybe.
Yeah, so I didn't see it as a controversial stoppage because of the time of the fight and where it was and how tough it was becoming.
Yeah.
What did you think of the stoppage, Simon? Did you think it was controversial?
Initially, because obviously I was ringside the same way you was, I watched the damage being inflicted upon Joe Parker. Didn't see much coming back, but I did feel initially my first reaction was, ooh,
just a touch.
Just a touch. Now, I don't know what you...
Watching it back?
I thought that on the night.
I think watching it back, I think it was the right thing.
From sitting there ringside, I thought on the night, there was no complaints from the corner, there was no complaints from Parker. A touch premature, but acceptable, fine with it. Absolutely. When I watched it back, and knowing the magnitude of it, seeing what's happening, I felt maybe a little bit more, but I've said this time and time again, and I'll say it again now, I would always prefer a touch premature than a touch too late.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with these big heavyweights, you saw Parker sort of sag a little bit onto the ropes where the exhaustion had crept in because he'd unloaded a lot earlier on against Wardley, and I felt I've got no real complaints about it. To be honest
if I was Anthony Joshua, I wouldn't want to box Wardley at the minute where he's hitting. It's hard for an heavyweight, and you've seen when with Anthony Joshua, he comes unstuck when he gets it on the chin.
And he can take a shot as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is with Wardley?
And it comes in different angles as well.
He just doesn't lose heart, does he? Like he sticks in there, and when it's even going his way. I mean, Joseph Parker was hurt badly, by the way, in the second round. With that uppercut.
Absolutely.
And he was touching. From then, you go, the fight started becoming... That's why I would go, at the time of the stoppage, forget the shots weren't landing, people saying, look, it was the timing of, like, his 11th round. And... Well, I think I just think the stoppage was perfect. If I'm honest.
Well, let's hear from Joe Parker speaking about the stoppage.
I did feel that the fight was going back and forth, and I was leading on the scorecards, I do believe. But when he in the 11th round, when he had that flurry, there were some punches that caught me, and also I was dodging and weaving and moving. And when he did the last three punches, I was aware of what was happening, and when the ref jumped in, I just said, "Hey, I'm fine." But I guess it's not my job to decide whether or not the fight can continue, you know. So I can sit here and complain. I can sit here and go back and forth and say, you know what, poor me. But I'm just gonna listen. What can you do? Accept it and take it on the chin and move on. Listen, I prayed before the fight. I did everything right, trained hard, and prayed. And I said, whatever happens, happens. And this is what's happened. So as much as I can go on about, listen, this is unfair, and the fight should have continued on, and I can say all of this, but it's not going to change anything, you know. And I guess I just want to congratulate my opponent, and hopefully, you know, down the line, if he doesn't get the fight with USYK, I would love to do a rematch again because, you know, he was a tough competitor.
Paul, I mean, there's an argument to say that Joe Parker took a fight that he didn't need to take and fought a fight in a way that he didn't need to fight. Yeah. I mean, I look at that and I looked at the whole thing, and I was very interested to hear what you had to say on it about the tactics that were deployed. I felt the corner seemed to be very laissez-faire. I saw, with all due respect to criticising a trainer, I saw Andy Lee saying to him very early in the fight, "You've taken his best shots. It gets better from here on in." And I found it all very strange. The very, very confident, sort of laissez-faire, laconic attitude that Joe Parker seemed to be exhibiting to Fabio Wardley. Is it just a case of Joe Parker having a nightmare of a night and getting most of it wrong?
I said on this show, on the preview to it, he's bit off not more than he can chew. This is a banana skin fight. This is a hiding to not. And if he wins, it's just a quick win. But this isn't a bit of an easier touch. I did think he'd win. I did think he'd have enough to win. I did pick him to win the fight.
We all did, yeah.
I'll admit that. But on the night, he'll be kicking himself because he had it won. He was well ahead, 7-3 probably going into that fight on most people's car into that last round. And I did hear Andy Lee saying to him, just box, just take it easy and box. So maybe the lackadaisical attitude is to just get him to realise you're well ahead, just box now, just see it out. But he didn't see it out, he got greedy. And he kept getting greedy every time he felt a little bit of a reaction from Wardley, which was frequent through the fight. But he got a bit too greedy in the end. He left himself open and he walked on to big shots after being hurt early on, as you've said a couple of times, Spencer. So I think he's got himself to blame, Joseph Parker. And maybe, I don't think he listened to the tactics in the corner.
Do you think he underestimated? I mean, as much as they gave one another a lot of respect, and they did, they gave one another a lot of kudos, and there was no bad blood between them, there was no trash talking. But do you think there was an element of superiority that Joseph had in his mind, so that A, he didn't feel that he needed to fight in a certain way, that he could stand in front of him, and if he felt like it, he could do that to him as he wished?
Yeah, you've just answered it for me. I was just going to say yes because of the way he came out in the fight. He came out and he put it right on him straight away. Yeah. There was no sort of feeling out. That shows to me that he didn't respect him enough, or didn't respect his power enough. But to be fair to him, it did look like, in my opinion, that first round, there was a few levels between them. It looked like Parker was up there and Wardley was making his way up there. Yeah. But after the fight, we all know Wardley certainly eradicated that. But yeah, I think he's possibly underestimated them a little bit, and he definitely hasn't maybe took him seriously in there, not in the preparation, but in there. But there's an argument in the preparation also because he was a bit heavy, wasn't
he? But again, ask the question. I'm not looking to be asked so clever with the trainer, but if that's the case, then surely the trainer will see that very early doors and say to him, we need to rethink your thinking. In the middle, I know once you're out in the ring, the fighter's going to do what he wants to do. But I remember, so again, I'm not looking to dig Andy out, but I remember watching the fight and watching Joe Parker, that got hurt in the second round, come across, and there was Andy Lee. Literally, they were laughing because they seemed to be so relaxed. There's nothing wrong with laughing and crying. I'm not suggesting he was laughing about the predicament, but it seemed to be so casual, as if this is just a temporary blip, we'll get through this. And it felt to me that was the wrong messaging. So why can't a trainer, if you're saying that the fighters gone into the fight with an attitude of superiority, thinks that there's nothing to be worried about, all of a sudden you see there's something to worry about, why can't the trainer pivot the fighter's mentality?
Like, switch on now. You need to switch. That would have been my advice. Look, switch on now, but he knows Joseph best. How many times have you seen fighters going into the last 2 rounds or last 1 round? You need this round just to make sure. You probably don't need the round, but you need that kick up the arse because you don't. It's fighting. It keeps
you honest in the fight, right? Yeah.
It's all individual fighters. Everyone's different. Like I can only go on me and my brothers. R. Stephen's totally different to me. I need to kick up the arse. Stephen needs a bit of coaxing, a bit of "you're doing great, lad." Like that's what gets you through the fights. But I did see the smiles at the end of the second when he was caught, and I felt like it was a bit of kidology. Look, just take it easy. But that for me, there's the kick up the arse you need. Look, you need to stay switched on here because the kid's still dangerous. He's obviously very live. We're early in the fight. Just keep picking him off a little bit more. Box a bit more.
I'm not a fan of the calm approach in the corner from the cornermen because both of you know this, when you go in them 12-round fights, there's times when you do feel sorry for yourself, when you do need to kick up your arse, when you do need to be told to be tight. And when you have that calm approach in the corner where it's very, low, the tone's very low, like it's sort of like, for me, that's not enough. Sometimes you need that bollocking in the corner to get you going. I've had it in times in fights when you go to round 10 and you're maybe 2 or 3 rounds in front and they go, listen, mate, you're going to lose this. Get out there and give it a good round.
That's what I was going to ask you both then. How do you view a 12-round fight in your head? As I used to have it as 3 4-round fights. I think the first 4, I'm going to make sure this. The middle 4, I'm going to do that. The last 4, I'm going to do that. Same with yourself. Do you look at it as 2 6-rounders? How do you do it yourself?
I do the same as you, like 4s. And obviously, the start, you feel them out, and then you try and pace yourself as the fight goes on. But when you, like you say, you needed to kick up the arse, didn't he? So that's why the corner should be stepping in and like jamming up a bit.
I think the problem that he had there as well, though, Parker, is that he had a good 9th round, and then Fabio Wardley, to his credit, come out and he had a massive temp. And you think, has he blown a gasket now? But that also,
he's always got belief in himself.
Parker a little
we
bit.
said on the night, I said it on the night, he's absolutely broke Parker's heart, and you know, because you can hit someone with your best shots constantly, and you just keep coming, and in the end, even though you're ahead, even though you're winning, you think, what have I got to do here for this kid? He just keeps coming, but he forgot the fact that the important fact he's well ahead on the cards, and he could have just boxed and saw that fight out.
You're talking about breaking fights down in segments, which you do because you look up after you look up when you see round 4 and you think, oh my God. You look up and you see round 7, you think, oh, I can't believe I've got this long to go. You see like round 9 and you see the finish line. It's all psychological, right? That's what we talk about a lot with fighters and going through them. And I think that the fight was won in that 10th round because Wardley showed that character, that fighting spirit.
And he always believes in himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, he does.
Unwavering.
Against all the backdrop, not interested in listening to anyone else's opinion about what he is and what he isn't, just keeps on defying it.
Fighting.
How much damage has this done to Joseph Parker in terms of the snakes and ladders mentality that Zach's talking about in terms of his space? Yeah. Has it done the same thing to Joseph Parker? Because a lot of people, all of us, gave Joe loads and loads of props for the fights against Zhilei Zhang, against Deontay Wilder. But Bakole less so, because Bakole came into the ring in the shape that he was in. And
still a good win, though, wasn't he?
It's still a win.
And it was still that was a very good fight on paper, I felt.
But has he done himself here in terms of really knocked himself out of the opportunity? Because he, you know, Joe is such a nice fellow. You know, he talks about things in such a very, you know, it's just boxing. I'll get on with it. I'll create another opportunity. I want to continue fighting. There's no danger of me not continuing to fighting. It was one of those nights in the office.
Where's he going to get that? That's what I'm saying. That's what I said after the fight. Who's going to now let him in the door? Because Fabio Wardley's sitting there pretty with 2 belts now. I wouldn't give him the rematch if I was Wardley. Not being honourable. I've got my opportunity now, mate.
Fabio Wardley's not going to give him a rematch,
for my shot now.
No, he's not. But the money is in the room now, as in you know, the game has changed so much now with the investment of the Turkey USYK and Riyadh season. These fights are being made, and you go, that opportunity may arise itself again. You know, we may get a rematch with Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua for the winner to go on a box. I mean, that's how it could manifest itself, because the money's in the room now, Simon. I think it's slightly different.
Why do you think Joe Parker didn't put a rematch clause in there?
It's a great question. That is a great question.
He had everything to lose in this fight, didn't he? And bugger all to gain, did he?
I think his mentality, like, he's been beat before. He got beat against Joe Joyce and he's come back. So I feel like in his head...
Long journey back, wasn't it?
That's probably
he had to go and fight Jack Massey, he had to fight other people, didn't he? Get himself back into a situation.
But now he's been here for quite a long time at the top bit. So hopefully he can just get straight back in there.
Better question for you, probably, to say, why wouldn't he have put that rematch clause in there, like in the position that he was in?
I mean, you've got 2 fighters on the same promoter, so you've got conflicting information there, because ultimately they made a fight, both of them took the fight, and I guess the logic in Joe's mind was, I don't lose this fight, so I don't need a rematch clause.
You just said that a great analogy, you know, it's snakes and ladders, but unfortunately at the very top the ladders are a lot steeper. Right. And if you lose at that level, it's a long way down, and it's harder to get your way back up there, which Joseph Parker, I think, will find out. Unless someone's going to be gracious enough to give him an opportunity, like you, Wardley, or someone up towards the top where he can get a win to put him... Even if he wins against someone, he's still not back to where he was. He had the interim title.
Do you know what, Paul? It's an interesting time in the heavyweight division, though, isn't it? With all the interim champions and waiting for these titles to fragment, what Alexander Usyk's going to do, you've got a lot of good fighters that are just on the fringe as well, and whilst they're waiting for that opportunity, these fights do get made, you know, like I said to you, to get that breakthrough fight. So I think he's still very much in the mix. He just has to hope that, you know,
something
that
comes out of the ether.
arises. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But do we, to close this subject off, do we see Alexander Usyk getting in a ring with Fabio Wardley? Despite the nature of the potential sequencing of ordering the fight, commercially... What is in it for Alexander Usyk?
That's where you're better answer. No, what gate is going to be able to pay Usyk what he wants for that fight?
Look, the reality is, will he box for £4 or £5 million? The answer is no. Like, so where do you get it from?
Yeah, I mean, is it a fight that would appeal to the Saudis to put up the money, drag it into Saudi, and pay more money than it's actually worth in terms of what it will generate? Or because we all know that if you put, I mean, Frank is probably right. If you put Usyk into Wembley Stadium, and you put him against Fabio Wardley, because Fabio Wardley will be a people's hero right now, because he's coming out of adversity, he keeps winning against the backdrop of the narrative being he was a fighter that had no amateur career, white-collar fighter, done all the things that most people think he couldn't have done. You'll sell 95,000 tickets. You will sell 95,000 tickets, but that will produce about 10 million quid. And
I don't... pay-per-view splits, though, haven't you?
Sure, but the scale of the fight is not going to be huge, is it? I mean, I might be overcooking it at 10 million quid. It might be 7 million quid from gate receipts. Take the VAT off that, you're down to 5, right? Take the facility fees that you've got to put in the first place to Wembley to have yourself there. You might get 5 out of the fight. You might get 5. What are you going to get? 500,000 buys on pay-per-view?
Yeah. And then we've got, like you say, you know, you have your sponsorship.
So you're not talking about huge amounts of money?
No, but you've got your sponsorship opportunities like Riyadh season and people like that, and that's where the money sort of comes
if that's going to be an attractive fight for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My feelings on it is, and I'm sure you'll agree with this one, is I hope he gets the shot because he deserves it. And after that win...
Fabio?
Absolutely. I hope Wardley gets the shot.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see it just for the whole Rocky story,
but the thing is,
what they built that fight up as,
because
from the white collar background to get the fight.
The thing is, Paul, does it really matter if he doesn't get the shot? Because he gets the title. If he doesn't get the shot, he gets the belt.
That's the one. What do you think he's hoping for? Usyk to give him a shot, or Usyk to vacate so he's a unified champion of the world?
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, he's going to go for the unified champion of the world, isn't he? Because ultimately it's a shot to nothing for him. It's one of those rare beasts that very few people get an opportunity to do. And if he were to lose against the generational great, there'd be no snakes and ladders for him, because he'd have gone in against one of the greats. And so he'd be in a situation where he can't lose. He has engineered an outcome for himself.
I think it's a win-win.
Joe Parker never realised he was creating for him. And all of a sudden, he's, with due respect to Fabio, who deserves all of the plaudits, what a godsend. He's engineered a wonderful position to be in.
That's why I speak the way I do about Joseph Parker, and he's one of the nicest fellas in boxing. There's no one that doesn't like him. I think he's made a massive mistake taking that fight, and I think he'll be kicking himself now, because the position he's in, he's going to struggle getting back in the door.
It's interesting to see the thinking behind who was in his corner, I don't mean literally in the night, advising him about the structure of this fight and the ramifications of it and the reality of having no rematch and all that stuff.
Well, listen, he was fast becoming the chairman of the Who Needs Him, Who Wants Him club anyway, and now he's lost there. You go, like you say, you put yourself in no man's land. I get that, and he's just got to hope that the opportunity manifests itself.
We were there on the night working it. Fight week, he was saying, I'll fight at home next as well if he wants. So you forget the position you're in. You've actually got that interim title. Your belt is next. Your title is next in line to fight the big man.
Well, interesting times. We're going to talk a little bit more again about USYK and opportunities that might come your way as potential opponents. Let's have a listen to Willie Hutchinson talking about Ben Whittaker.
Really and truly, he's creating a lot of noise on YouTube. He's not creating a lot of noise in the ring, is he? If you want to know the honest truth. I think anyone half decent will absolute backslap him and do a job on him. As I seen with Liam Cameron, I mean, he quitted, didn't he? You know? No matter what things go, what things done, the fella did quit. Yeah, he come back and he beat that man. But we're talking worlds away here. We're talking good men and we're talking world-class men. There's a different stage here. He's making noise on YouTube, doing his MCing and dancing about. But in the ring, you know, it's not there for me.
I mean, Willie Hutchinson has a lot of things to say, and I quite like it because he's quite bold. He had something to say about your fight on Saturday night. He wasn't going to stay around to watch it any longer, but he did. And obviously now he said some comments about Ben Whittaker. And to be fair to Ben Whittaker is rowing back on some of the claims that are being made about him. But what do you think about what Willie just said there?
Yeah, obviously he's wanting to get him with the big fights. That's why he was watching me and Buatsi. He probably wants a winner. Obviously I was meant to box him at one point and he pulled out. But yeah, that'd be a good fight for him and Ben Whittaker. Ben Whittaker's a massive name, isn't he? So
well, that leads me to the question about what. Well, he is being pushed forward as a massive name, and there's a lot of resonance about him. We all like him. We all think because of the style that he brings to the ring in terms of the performing antics that I think are quite interesting. I don't think they're offensive to me. But is it a fight that you would entertain? Would you like to fight Ben Whittaker?
I'd fight anyone out there, especially that'd be a great fight. Obviously. If it makes sense to me, like money wise, then I'd.
But what do you think of him as a fighter? I mean, a lot of.
He's obviously he's not he's not been in there with like the top lads yet, but he's on the rise, isn't he? Obviously, he had that controversial decision with Liam Cameron, and then obviously he's put that wrong. I mean, so yeah, see what he's got to fight soon, hasn't he? In the end of this month, isn't it?
I mean, what do you make about the observations? Because we're still debating, aren't we? I mean, obviously we all like Ben Whittaker. We think he's very talented. And he went and did to Liam Cameron in the second fight what he should have done to him in the first fight. Right? Do you see him as a big hitting light heavyweight? Because the big question about Ben Whittaker is, does he carry the power?
Yeah, he's obviously very flashy. It's quite odd. I've spotted him quite a few times, but not like most of them do. I feel like I hit a lot harder.
Right.
But yeah, it ain't all about who hits the hardest, is it? It can box as well.
And I think with his style as well, you don't necessarily have to hit hard. He'll hit you with a lot more shots and volume and variety as well of punches. He's got that awkward style where he throws a lot of punches.
How far is Whittaker off fighting someone like Zach Parker, being ready to fight someone like Zach Parker?
It depends on, obviously, if he goes and fights Lyndon Arthur next time, is to beat Lyndon Arthur, he's European champion. So is Whittaker ready to step up for the European title against someone like Zach? Probably not yet, especially after struggling in the first fight against Liam Cameron. But that will be the plan that they want. They will want, as promotional team around him now, Matchroom, they will want to get him British title, Commonwealth title, maybe European title, and then try and do the traditional route if they can. If not, then they just try and get him to maybe bypass a few, be very select with the opponents, because we've seen it before with the fighters who get there, but they don't actually fight the big fellas on. Listen, Conor Ben's possibly one of them fighters. He hasn't gone the British title, but all of a sudden he's fighting for millions of pounds and talking about him fighting for the world title. I'm not disrespecting him saying that, but he's conveniently avoided the fighters on the way up that had the British, Commonwealth, European titles.
Well, it's an interesting time now, Paul, to be a light heavyweight. Because I was just looking through the names. You've got like Callum Smith, Anthony Yard, Joshua Buatsi, Zach Parker, Dan Aziz, Craig Richards, Lyndon Arthur, Willie Hutchinson, Brad Ray, Liam Cameron. So you can't avoid these, because you're looking at the top 15. You've got Carol Soma, Louis Edmondson, Ben Whittaker.
You can avoid them if you go the European route or the American route.
If he picks up the European, or what I'm saying is Lyndon Arthur is a British fighter. He's got the European as well. So I go, where do you manoeuvre it? How do you do it? It's a good time to be a light heavyweight now, because to have them dance partners, like I've just reeled off those names.
That's the exact reason why.
It's a great opportunity.
That's the exact reason why I come up to light heavy, because at super middle there was no chances, because Canelo had all the belts, and that's why I thought, look at the light heavyweight division, it's absolutely stacked. So that's why I come up.
Is it likely that if for whatever reason there can't be a fight made with Lyndon Arthur, is there a motivation in your mind to take the Willie Hutchinson fight now? Would you now take it?
Depends. Obviously, I feel like in the past when he's pulled out, I can't depend on that again. You know what I mean? But if there's a massive prize on line, I'm in this business for money and secure my future. So
do you feel
that's an incentive for me?
Do you feel that it's like you will take any opportunity if it's presented to you right now with this stage of your career? You go, right, listen, whether that be British title, European title, whatever it is.
I think I'm past British. Definitely past British.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're just looking for that opportunity.
I want the big fights. I'm 31 now. I want to push on. I don't want to be sitting around trying to rebuild myself up back to British. I've just beat Buatsi in my eyes, and he was actually on the year in his boxing yard or Benavides. So I feel like I should be around with them names.
Obviously, the next big light heavyweight fight is Anthony Yard versus David Benavides, November the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody think, and what is the general consensus of opinion about Anthony Yard's chance in this fight? I think there's a perception that it's probably his best chance, given who he's fought previously, Kovalev and Beterbiev. Do we think
he's a great fighter as well, mate? Do you know what? To get 3 world title shots and have him against the calibre of opponent that he's had, you got to respect it for one. But he's an overwhelming underdog. We all know that. But one thing he can do, Yard,
is whack.
He can whack, can't he? So that obviously gives him the opportunity.
That's it. He's got a puncher's chance, but with the styles, I feel like he ain't got the style to keep Benavides off him. He ain't got the boxing style. He likes to come forward and try and bully people. So with Benavides, he likes you just keep coming at him, because you know what I mean.
You just said that he hasn't got the style to keep him off, and what's been proven factually from his 2 world title fights, and I'm not sticking the boot in, he hasn't got the engine to do it also. He's got to have. I hope he's had a dramatic change in camp, and they've switched some things up, so he's got an engine to do 12 rounds. Yeah. He's got to be able to do them 12 rounds to keep someone like Benavides off him.
Do you give him any chance?
Slim to nobody has a puncher's chance. Everyone has a chance in a fight, and as I say, I've been wrong and we've been wrong plenty of times, and we could be wrong again. But realistically, I just can't see it happening. Benavides is a special fighter. He's some fighter, and absolutely that's the top level.
Absolutely. Next weekend, of course, we've got my favourite fight, Eubank versus Ben.
You going?
Unfinished business, it's called, isn't it? The only reason it's called unfinished business is because they didn't rinse enough money out of everybody the first time.
Well, they're getting well paid for this one.
Fantastic.
For this one?
No, I have not. I shall not.
Are you going? No.
No. Oh. Absolutely. I'm staying with my same position. What did you think of the first fight, Zach?
Yeah, it was a great fight. Obviously, a lot of people thought Eubank were probably going to walk through him, and that weren't obviously the case. But yeah, it's a money fight, isn't it? And this is what all those boxers are in this sport for the money, and it's still got bad blood there as well. So a lot of people want to see it, don't they?
How do you see it going?
I think Eubank will do a better job than we did last time. I feel like he just thought, he can't hurt me, so I'm just going to have a brawl with him. But I feel like he'll box him this time and maybe take him out towards the late rounds.
You're in the same place, aren't you? Oh, no,
yeah, I just think that with Bomac, now part of that team, and I just think he's a great trainer, he's a great motivator, he's a great cheerleader in the gym, and I think tactically he just gets it right, and I think that Eubank will get the weight right this time. That played a big part in it last time, and I just think that it'll be an easier victory for Eubank?
I've
He's a
actually-
bigger guy.
I think it's dangerous with the weight though. Like he's got a stipulation that only what is it, £10?
Rehydration clause, yeah.
Then
I've
that's
actually-
dangerous. That is.
Yeah.
I think.
I've actually changed my mind over the last couple of weeks.
Where you going?
I don't think Eubank has anything left, and I've said this before, and I'm not disrespecting him, putting him down. He's had a hard career. I felt the same when he was fighting my brother Liam, so I can't really go back and say now all of a sudden because of Bomac he's magically going to improve. He will improve, but I think the shot resistance when Conor Benn, who was a welterweight, was hurting him in the last fight. I think with the added confidence of Conor Benn knowing he can hurt in this fight with another crack at it.
Down to making the weight though, because how badly he got it wrong.
I don't think he got it badly wrong, no. This is my point. He just turned up a little bit late. He was a quarter
Is
of a
Conor
pound or
technically
something
good enough to
0.1
execute?
of an ounce.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is
goes up 2
Conor
ounces.
technically good enough to execute?
Possibly not, no. I don't think... I think it's... Why I've said this to you before on this show, it was a very evenly match fight and it was a competitive fight and that's why I loved it. And it was a very good fight.
Great
That's why I
fight.
watch it again.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be competitive. Eubank should be...
Of course he should.
Well ahead with the weight advantages and the experience that
had
he's
a
had
long
fighting the
career,
top
hasn't he?
names. He's had a
Yeah.
long career. He's fought some very good fighters out there,
Absolutely
good
right.
world champions at the weight above as well. It should not be close, but the fact that it is close tells me what I need to know about Eubank. So I'm going to possibly... I think Ben might pull it off this time.
I think it's fair to say though, we will get another great fight. That is for sure. I think that, whatever way it
Unlike
goes,
Simon,
we're all going to have an
I will
opinion
be
on it.
watching.
But he might,
Right, well, we'll
might
pick-
be there, mate.
We will
He
pick
might
up
be there. You
this,
never know.
this mythical crap next week. Right, that's it for episode 145 of Talk Boxing. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Paul. Zach, there will be a silver lining, I'm sure. And we'll see you guys next week.